This is breaking news as of the recording of this podcast, though. When I mentioned I don't know the composition of the South Carolina Supreme Court. I'm pessimistic generally in South Carolina, but we'll see what based on the composition of other legislative bodies there. But we'll see. But there was this really alarming story from the New York Times earlier today about Reverend Rob Schneck, who he was formerly this anti-abortion activist who engaged in a lot of really dangerous stunts, very performative stuff. He has this group called Faith in Action that he ran through 2018, and he's since recognized that everything he did was wrong, and he's since told his story, but he's never told this story about his past behavior. And one of the things he did in Faith in Action is he had something called Operation High Court, where he tried to influence the United States Supreme Court by utilizing wealthy families to join social clubs with the Supreme Court justices and go to dinners with the Supreme Court justices and befriend them and have all of these relationships with them. And what it talks about is, and there's lots of contemporaneous evidence backing this up, is that this one family, Don and Gail Wright, who were one of the people used by Reverend Rob Schneck in this Faith in Action organization, befriended Sam Alito and some others, but Sam Alito in particular, and would have dinners at his house. And Sam Alito and now deceased Justice Scalia would give them like front row seats to oral arguments as part of the friendship. But that the Supreme Court justices in 2014, specifically Sam Alito, at a dinner with the Wright family, told them about a decision that he was going to make. In other words, he leaked a ruling that the Supreme Court was going to side with the Hobby Lobby Corporation that didn't want to fund contraception as part of their Affordable Care Act obligations. And weeks before the ruling came out, Alito had told Don and Gail Wright, who then told Reverend Rob Schneck what the ruling was going to be. And then Reverend Rob Schneck told the Hobby Lobby people to try to get them to become additional donors of the Faith in Action negotiation. When the decision in Dobbs was leaked, I immediately thought it was right-wing extremists on the court who were leaking it to try to stop its huge impact, or to just kind of leak it in drips so that the country would be ready for it when it would happen. And there was no incentive, I thought, for anyone, the pro-democracy Democratic appointees on there, to leak it. It wouldn't serve any advantage to do that. And so I always thought it was a right-winger, but here we have now evidence of this court whose legitimacy is rightfully being questioned, with people like Alito having dinner with these individuals and telling them about opinions he was going to write. Alito denies that took place, but we've got a lot of contemporaneous emails and evidence that support it. So I just wanted to touch on that, Popok, because as we go back to the earlier themes of this episode, where we talked about, if anyone else was in this situation, they'd be prosecuted. But why is there a different standard for Trump? Elections have consequences. The importance of voting, the importance of supporting candidates who support our democracy and who are normal, it couldn't be more important. We're seeing this already as the agenda by Republicans in the House seem to be whatever Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to do. Already it's a focus on conspiracy theories and how to defund Ukraine and defund the FBI and investigations, and not talking about issues that matter. That's why we do this show each week. Michael Popok, myself, that's why we bring you the experts. We don't have talking heads on the MeidasTouch network. We have experts who break down the objective data for you, and that is why it is a complete honor that I get to do this with you, Michael Popok, a true expert, each and every weekend. Final words before we go, Michael Popok?
Yeah, I think the most troubling thing about the reporting on the Hobby Lobby is it confirms what we've always suspected, which is that these justices in their off time, in their off duty time, socialize with, are not apolitical, are not neutral, and do not go out of their way to assiduously remain independent, which is what we want our judiciary at the highest level in our checks and balance system to be. Instead, they are craven, they are base, and they are weak, and they are humans, and they socialize with the right wing, the fundamentalist religious people. They go to the Federalist Society in black tie to be feted for their rulings. It is the exact opposite of what we want in a federal judiciary and in a Supreme Court judiciary. I mean, I remember the times, seems like so long ago, when Supreme Court justices, mainly Alito, said he's not going to go to the State of the Union address that the president was giving, in this case Obama, because he didn't want the judiciary to seem political. And yet he's hobnobbing with everyone on the other end of the spectrum that can help influence his decisions. I don't think there's any doubt that Alito or someone for Alito leaked the decision in order to make it almost impossible for Justice Roberts to create a coalition to save Roe versus Wade. You and I thought that at the very beginning, because once it was published, then any of the backroom negotiations that would normally go on in caucus to try to get enough votes, get a Kavanaugh, get a Amy Coney Barrett, get a Gorsuch to come over to try to salvage an aspect of Roe versus Wade, which we know from the ruling Roberts was trying to do, was dashed at that moment. And that was the goal of releasing it. And again, this is not the first time. If the reporting is correct and the woman, the wife, has denied it, but if the reporting is correct, this is Sam Alito is the most dangerous justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, bar none.
The wife has an email right after she had that dinner with Sam Alito to this Reverend Rob Schneck saying, I got information for you, but we can only talk about it by the phone. Like there's a contemporaneous, it's the gaslighting of these liars. Also, one of the pro-democracy judges would not have leaked it to Politico. Okay, that's such a right-wing move. Of all the places to leak it to, you're leaking it to Politico anyway.
Right.